My name is Walter Lewis Cohen Pierce. I'm better known around town as just Walt Pierce, but that's my full name. I'm 71 years old, 7th Ward, just a little bit outside of Tremea. Spent most of my childhood years in the 7th Ward. We were fortunate enough to be able to travel to Lincoln Beach by car. And of course, it was quite a distance back then. There was nothing out here except Lincoln Beach. I do know a lot of folks who did come out here on the bus on a regular basis, but we were able to travel by car.
You can remember your age during that time?
You know, I want to say anywhere from 5 to maybe 10 years old, as I remember it. And of course, my experience with Lincoln Beach is very fond memories. But because of the color of my skin, I was able to not only go to Lincoln Beach, but I could go to Pontchartrain Beach. I could pass. A lot of people of my complexion were able to do that and did it. Now, as a kid, I really didn't know what was going on, but I do remember my mother telling me, son, don't tell your friends and your neighbors where you're going, whether it's Pontchartrain or Lincoln, but especially if you're going to Pontchartrain Beach, because a lot of those people, they couldn't go, but you could go. And I never understood what why. But obviously as I got older, I understood what was going on. New Orleans, for a city that it is, it had a lot of integrated neighborhoods. And that's why I think when the cities were exploding in racial violence, we didn't really have that here, because we all live next door to each other, white with black with white. We're probably more segregated racially now at this day and age than we were back in the 60s and 70s. And of course, you had the segregated things in public accommodations on the bus or riding the transit, riding the bus and stuff like that. But you didn't have all that trouble here. But I could, that's one of the things that I remember. I could get away with that. We could get away with that in my family. So I kind of had the best of both worlds.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you remember, what did you enjoy more, the rides, the swimming?
No, not the rides. I never was one for amusement rides. Kind of scary. But obviously I enjoyed the pool. And they had 2 pools, I think, at Lincoln Beach, if I remember correctly. Beautiful pools right on the beach. And it was really nice. It was almost like going to a resort. The only ride I used to go on at Lincoln Beach and even at Pontchartrain Beach was the bumper cars. I like that. But the rest of it, I wasn't interested in it.
You didn't care for the Ferris wheel?
Oh no, too high, yeah.
And so you played games sometimes, probably.
In like some of the, that kind of stuff. I don't really remember. My biggest memory is being able to go both to Lincoln Beach and to Pontchartrain Beach, sometimes the same day, and swimming. You're swimming in the pool, So that was a big thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then now, what schools did you attend?
I went to. I'll start off with Martinez. I don't know if you remember Martinez as a preschool. Corpus Christi. I did spend 2 years. I think it was 2 years at Tommy LaFawn, up in the Magnolia Housing Project, because my mother worked at Flint Goodrich Hospital, and she actually moved uptown. My mother and father were separated, so I stayed with mom. And in order to make it easy for mom, I went to Tommy LaFawn for 2 years. Yeah, and that was an interesting experience. But Corpus Christi being like a Creole kind of school, Tommy LaFawn not so much. Me and another young lady were the lightest things in there. We caught hell. It was an interesting experience. Mm-hmm.
And then tell me about your grandfather, your name.
Yes.
Holds a lot of history.
Yes, my grandfather's Walter L. Cohen, great-grandfather. And Walter L. Cohen High School is named after him. And he had a couple of federal appointments through his career and became one of the few, if not maybe the only person of color to hold some important positions even after Reconstruction, well into the teens and 1920s.
Because in order to get a school named after you, he had to do a lot.
Yeah, and they did it. In 1949, when the school board decided they wanted to open a high school for African Americans, that's when it happened. They came up with the name Walter L. Cohen. And as a kid, I would go, even as 10 years old, go to functions there because of my name and my relationship to him. And I've continued to do that through the years.
You still go to the school and speak to
Yeah, I was there recently for the Black History Month, and I did something last year with them. I actually have done a commencement address a couple of years back at the school, so I was honored to do that.
So I don't know if I'm missing something. Maybe you might want to share with us something.
You overheard me telling my story at the opening of the Louisiana Civil Rights Museum, the temporary Civil Rights Museum. You heard me talking about it, and that's what caught your attention. And that's why I'm here today talking to you about this, because it's a part of Lincoln Beach, and I'm sure I wasn't the only person to be able to do what I did, and the family to be able to do what we did.
We both was walking around looking at the exhibit.
Yeah.
And then you said, I was able to go to both.
Yes.
And I said,
Right.
that's what you told me.
Yeah.
I was able to pay.
And that would catch your attention.
Right.
You know, a lot of folks in my complexion back in the day could pass and get away with it, and I was able to do it.
Looking back, I don't know if you can remember, what was the difference? Can you remember a difference? If Pontchartrain Beach was better than Lincoln Beach?
I think certainly it was bigger. And since I was not one to go on rides, I knew they had more rides, more attractions. They had the shows, which Lincoln Beach had shows too, I never went to, that I recall going to. Well, it was a bigger beach, but look where it was. It was, close to town. You had to really travel to get to Lincoln Beach as opposed to Pontchartrain Beach. It's just the way things were back then. Another thing, I'm also one who, I'm a lover of trains. I love trains. I'm a big kid when it comes to trains. So one of my fond memories was going down that tunnel underneath the railroad tracks to get to Lincoln Beach and maybe seeing a train or hearing a train, that kind of stuff. Nowadays, you can't do that because that tunnel is full of water almost all the time. And you got to climb over stuff to get there. And I really hope that sometime in the near future, I know folks like you and others have been trying to get something done to reuse Lincoln Beach, reopen it as a historical spot. And I think it'd be great if something like that could happen where everybody could come and see. I think that anything that helps people understand the past, all of the past, that's a reason why Lincoln Beach, I think, should be open or reopened in some form or fashion. Because it's historic. People need to see and experience, perhaps what things were like back in the day. I think that's important. You got to know where you come from in order to know where you're going. And that's a big issue in this country right now. A lot of stuff going on that, folks don't want you to know anything about the true history, especially when it comes to racial stuff. You got to know where you've been in order to know where you're going.
Now, but tell us, how did you feel when they closed up Lincoln Beach and Pontchartrain Beach?
As a kid, I don't recall honestly having any real feelings because as a kid, I was still able to go and enjoy what I could enjoy. And another thing about Pontchartrain Beach, you had a bigger sand beach. And I don't recall us ever trying to get in the pool. And I don't even know if the pool was open, even though it was a segregated beach, a segregated center, amusement park. But we almost always went in the lake. And I do remember that, but no, that's about it.
Karen Nabon Coxum, and I'm a native New Orleanian whose family members are all buried here or still living here in New Orleans. Most of my family still reside in New Orleans. I grew up in Gentilly in the Boscoville area where I was born, moved to Pontchartrain Park, and I currently reside on Hain Boulevard in eastern New Orleans.
Tell us some of your memories about Lincoln Beach. You are living in the area. Tell us your memories about Lincoln Beach.
We were really excited when it opened. And then the excitement got even bigger because our next door neighbor became a lifeguard at Lincoln Beach, one of the pools. So we were excited and loaded up the car and came out here. And the big attraction, of course, was the pool because in New Orleans being so hot, you wanted to go somewhere where you could cool off. And they had rides and carnival atmosphere and things to eat and drink. But the pools, they had more than one. They were the biggest attraction for the beach because if you're on the water, you want to get into the water. So even though we weren't in the lake, the pools were safe and secure with the lifeguards like my neighbor, Mr. Buddy Lewis.
Yeah.
And our families felt that that was a really good, safe place to either learn how to swim or swim. And swimming is a big deal in the summer.
And so about what age you remember visiting Lincoln Beach?
I'm the youngest of five siblings, of five of us, four other siblings. So being the youngest, and I was born in the 50s, and the beach unfortunately closed in the 60s. So I was very young when we did go to the beach. I have family members who are older than myself, who remembers it probably better than I do because they were older when they went to the beach. But you know, there was always something going on. They had beauty contests and musical acts and entertainment and attractions for all ages. But again, the pools, you know, were the biggest attraction because a lot of people didn't have swimming pools in their homes or in their yards.
And so you say they had more than one pool. So
There was a kiddies pool. There was a pool for people who just wanted to just swim and not necessarily go into a deep end. There's a diving pool for those who were talented enough to know how to dive because diving can be dangerous if you don't know how to dive correctly. So and then that was a place where people could show off their diving skills, and of course the girls would go look at the young man and the young men would look at the young ladies. So it was a place where you just felt happy all the time.
and what form of transportation did you use?
We got to Lincoln Beach in our family car because we always wanted to go together. So, and there were transportation, there were other methods of transportation to getting there, the bus, but we came by car. It was too far for us to walk from home, but it wasn't that far. So we attracted the residents of New Orleans from all over the city because in New Orleans really isn't that big. So nothing is hours away. So it really was a great attraction for anybody, no matter where they lived in New Orleans, to come to the beach.
Now, do you remember some of the rides at Lincoln Beach?
I don't remember I remember seeing the rides, but I was a scaredy cat, so I didn't really like roller coasters and things like that. So I didn't have to go on the rides, but I know my brothers and sisters and friends and family and all of our relatives and friends went on the rides. Like I said, it was something for everybody.
They had games.
There were games. There was a midway, and a midway at most beaches and attractions like that is a main corridor that we used to walk to and from all of the areas. So they were areas where you could get something to eat or play a game. I don't remember clearly exactly the physical layout, and I know there are pictures of where the pools were and where the rides were. But I just remember just a lot of great things that you could hear, people laughing and nobody really having any reason to be unhappy.
And they had singers. You hear about Sam Cooke, Nat King Cole.
There were lots of entertainment venues, Nat King Cole, Fats Domino, the celebrities of the time and the era frequented the beach. They had a built-in audience, and this was usually at nighttime, though.
Now, why did you stop? Was it closed, or did you go to Pontchartrain Park? Why did you stop going to Lincoln Beach?
Well, Lincoln Beach, some of the fizzle of it began to die out when the opening of Pontchartrain Beach. Pontchartrain Beach was bigger, and of course was marketed with a lot more gusto, and anything new is going to attract the attention of everyone. So after segregation, everybody wanted to go to the newest place. So, like I said, the fizzle of Lincoln Beach started to die down, and unfortunately, it closed, and so did Pontchartrain Beach after the many years, which is really unfortunate because there aren't a lot of places for our kids coming up through the years to go to. You had to travel, you had to get in a car and really go far to go to other attractions that we had here, which we once had here.
So now, we are about to open it, Lincoln Beach up again. So tell us your feelings about opening, or why you think they're taking too long to open it. What do you want to see once they open up the beach again?
Not only can I not wait until Lincoln Beach reopens, I think everybody's waiting for the reopening of Lincoln Beach. So the excitement is going to start building, and we all need to encourage anyone and everyone that can help with this effort to join in and make sure that this happens sooner than later, because the water's there. The water's there, and there have been many efforts of keeping it clean, and making it the beauty that it really always was and is and will be. So we're very excited about when it reopens, and which I think with the help of a lot of community groups in the area now, that's going to happen sooner than later.
Yes. And so, I don't know, maybe I missed anything you want to add to what you already expressed about Lincoln Beach?
Where Lincoln Beach is located on Lake Pontchartrain, the lake, I feel, and a lot of people do realize, is one of the underutilized areas of New Orleans. The riverfront has been redeveloped a lot and continues to be redeveloped. So now it's the lake's turn to see things that will attract people to this area. There's a lot of space here. There's a lot of land here. There's a lot of areas for improvement. There's a lot of parking areas. There's a lot of, like I said, green space. So there's it's just a vast area just ready and ripe for development.
I'm Reverend Richard S. Bell Sr. I'm one of the activists for the L9. I belong to the L9 Voter Coalition, a community diverse, chairperson of Council of Aging, Reverend of my church, assistant pastor of my church. I'm just engaged with so much. I'm the ex-director for Sankofa, board of director. I'm still engaged with Sankofa, but I stepped down because it's a 3-year term. You let somebody else come, I could go back if they need me.
What part of the military did you serve?
National Guard. I was in the National Guard 35 years right here in the city, Jackson Barracks. My last tour of duty, I served 35 years, but my last year, by me being a master sergeant, it only was 8 in the state of black. I was one of the 8. I was in the Jackson Barracks. I broke a lot of barriers there. I have so much history because I was the 64 black to get in 1973 in this area in the National Guard. I was the first black male to get in administration, the first black male to send to administration school, because they wanted me to fail. They used to send you to supply. I said, no, I don't want supply. I want admin. I was an admin for the whole 35 years in the S1, that dealing with all the administrative processing, taking the pictures. And the reason I did that because when I did the ASVAB test, my score was high enough not to be just a supply guy, as they all want us to be. So I went to the admin and they sent me so I could fail, but I didn't. Never typed before in my life, but you have to type 40 words a minute. I was typing 48. And we had that manual typing, so that was hard. But while my comrades was going to sneaking out, going to the little clubs at night, I was going to study hall. It wasn't mandatory, but I said, If I want to get ahead, I went to study hall. It was a 9-week course. I was out in 6 weeks. Okay. Leadership role always been my life. In elementary school, I guess I was teacher Pat in Moulton, Robert Moulton, in the Desire Project. And after that, I went to Culver Junior High, and I was the class lead of art. Then when I promoted to the senior side, in my sophomore year, I became DECA, that Distributed Education Association. I was the DECA president. I was able to help close to 30 students find jobs from Swagman that used to be here to City Hall with my teacher. We found jobs for them. I even had a job at Junior One Auto Parts, which used to be located behind Burger King in Gentilly. And after that, I joined the military because my mama couldn't afford to send me to college. I'm the ninth child. They said the ninth child have everything. No. I was riches to rags, rags to riches. I didn't have much. My mom couldn't do much from the Desire Project. She had 9 kids from the same guy. He was alcoholic. I don't drink. I came to a family with brother that was on drugs. I never messed with drugs in my life. I seen enough of it. But as being the ninth child, I didn't have to pass down stuff. I was the one never got much. But I appreciate whatever my mom was able to do, but I was the one, they always say the last child get everything. No, I went to school with holes in my shoes. I went to school with 2 pair of pants, 2 shirts. Then knocked my mama for it because she did the best she could to try and keep the other sibling happy. But I kept the faith that things don't last. So what I did, I never knocked my mom. I said, when I get to the age, I'm gonna try to help you. So at age 15, I started working. When we was young, like I said in the Desire Project, we had to wait for a ride. You didn't have cars. So if one of my sister boyfriends come over with a car, they said, let's go to Lincoln Beach because you weren't allowed to go to Pontchartrain Beach. It wasn't integrated yet. We'll come to Lincoln Beach, and in the memories I had, it was a beautiful place. You didn't have no violence, you didn't have no fighting and nothing like that. Back then, everybody got along. It wasn't a big place. We didn't have the modern stuff as Pontchartrain Beach, but we had our own beach that we could come and enjoy ourselves. I don't remember the big brick wall. That came later when the levees wasn't holding, so they had to do the taller walls. I believe they just had a regular levee that you just walked over, okay? But Lincoln Beach was the place that you had to go because, like I said, you couldn't go to Pontchartrain Beach. So when Pontchartrain Beach integrated, we still had solid black here. And we saw going to Pontchartrain Beach, where Pontchartrain Beach was still split in half. You couldn't go in Meteorite on Lakeshore Drive. That was all white. So you still pushed down this way to Lincoln Beach, but when the segregation started, you had a right to go to Pontchartrain Beach or here. Lincoln Beach, the reason it closed, because even back then, your politicians stayed up to keep it up. You know, to get it coming back is a breath of fresh air for this area. It's bringing back old history. Hopefully, it will be just as good as wherever they do Jazzland. But it's something that we could tell the kids that something we had first. Hopefully, it's beautiful more than what it was before. We had Fontainebleau, but you still need a vehicle. To get to Fontainebleau, you need a vehicle to get to the lakefront. Here you can walk to Lincoln Beach. You got rides to Lincoln Beach. You felt more at ease because you seen people your color at Lincoln Beach. So you didn't felt that pressure of discrimination. But when you went to Pontchartrain, you felt discrimination. Fontainebleau, I don't remember them being prejudiced over there. I went there a lot of times, and the water was low there. That you could walk in that water and it's low. So, you know, like I said, coming up in the Ninth Ward itself, in the Desire Project, we lost the culture when they closed it. So bringing it back, bringing the culture back, our kids gonna come to the new Lincoln Beach. We were with the old Lincoln Beach. So our kids got to keep it going because we decreasing, they increasing. So they're the one, we setting the foot back. They got to keep it going, and we got to let our politicians know, don't let it shut down again. Because the opening up and keeping it open is one thing, but you need the federal grants to keep it open. You need people to donate to keep it open. So you got to get a committee with donations. You got to get our politician, District E, to make sure it's still open. You got to get City Hall to make sure that they get the federal funds for it. If that don't happen, it will close again. So we got to make sure we get the right people in the right place to keep it open.
Was the car the only transportation you was able to come on as teenagers?
The only transportation was the car because I stayed inside our project. We couldn't walk from the project all the way here. So we had to wait for a ride. We had to wait somebody to come along, cousin, or one of my sister's boyfriend or uncle say, hey, you know, can you bring us? So they'll bring us, but you didn't got here all the time. I mean, because back then you didn't have transportation. Now with transportation, they get their parking lot, it should be jam-packed on the weekend.
Now, what about the difference between, if you can remember, Pontchartrain Beach and Lincoln Beach with the rides?
With Pontchartrain Beach, it was in a dynamic white area. That part of the lakefront was always white. So you still need a car to go there, but when you went there, you have to be cautious because discrimination was still there. So some rides you couldn't get on, and some rides you can. Some area you couldn't get to, some areas you can. So it was still segregated, but you could go, but you had to be cautious. So at Pontchartrain Beach, you had to have adult supervision. Over here, you didn't. So over at Pontchartrain Beach, you need supervision with adult, because if not, kids would you might get missed, you might get drowned. Over here, you didn't really need a supervision. So no, this was completely for the night walk period.
Now, did you prefer the rides or swimming or both?
I prefer the rides because swimming, we lost a lot of kids. That if you're going to have swimming, you need lifeguards.
Yes.
You need a place where they could be trained in a certain part, like a pool, before they get into the big water. So even when it's open, they need to open up probably this size of a pool, a training pool with lifeguards, to train the kids and adults like myself. I don't know how to swim at age 7. So you need something. I don't want to get in water and I don't know how to swim. So I have to say, okay, I don't know how to swim, so can you teach me? So they have a place bigger this to train young and old how to swim, then supervise them to the water. But they need some cutoff so you don't go so deep when you're in the water, because people don't realize the water like this, but it go deep. So if you swimming or you're not too good for swimming, the current would take you under and you drown. So just like they got at the lakefront, they got to have a barrier so far you could go because the current gonna take you under. So they need that when they build that thing alone, saying, hey, this is as far as you could go. Plus they got this stream thing that you can't, the current won't be able to take it. It will push you there and bring you back up. If you ain't got that and you ain't got lifeguards, you have a lot of people drown.
You also had the game. Did you play any game?
No, the only thing I remember on the beach was the few rides they had and just being with family and picnicking. We didn't have much stuff over there. We had less stuff than Pontchartrain Beach had. Right. Lincoln Beach was more of a swimming. If they're bringing it back, bring it with entertainment. The young people, this generation, like entertainment. It has to be bad entertainment. You have to have some type of entertainment to keep them interested.
Yes.
Because if it's just swimming, picnicking, this young generation not for that. So you got to have some entertainment. If it's rides or something going on, or some type of entertainment. Because if you don't have entertainment, you're not going to be able to bring the young people in.
Did you hear or do you know when they closed Lincoln Beach and opened up, when the law passed, the civil rights law passed, to desegregate
Pontchartrain
Beach, that's when they start closing up Pontchartrain Beach also.
They closed half of Pontchartrain Beach and kept half open. Because buildings start coming out. Building. They start building big building.
Right.
Harvard police came there.
Right.
They built the 2 story. They start building the area. So then you know when we start coming to a lot of areas, so we're gonna close it down.
Right.
So they took half of Pontchartrain Beach and kept half.
Right.
Then it got to the point that this big building that's there now,
Right.
they had to close Lake Beach. They closed Pontchartrain down because you smothered it.
Right.
You smothered with the building about the end of Franklin, and you smothered about the other building. So you didn't have nothing but a little spot left. If you look at it, you still got a little spot. It's green, but it's a little spot. So it's the building came in there and took it because they figured we didn't need it no more. So you really had no entertainment for nobody. The only entertainment you had was the regular fairs that came down in a little shopping center on the West Bank. And the people lost interest because Pontchartrain Beach was closed, Lincoln Beach was closed. You didn't have nothing in Slidell. Slidell had a lot of fairs, so people was going over there for the fairs. Then when generation changed and more cars, people was able to afford more cars, they went farther out.
Right. Right.
It went farther out because everything closed. I mean, you done had the Pontchartrain Beach, you had Lincoln Beach, you didn't have nothing. Jazzland came and gone so quick. So it's everything started changing.
Right.
The generation started changing. You know, we got into the computer age. See, we wasn't in the computer age. We had to walk to the block to use the phone.
Right.
But now your phone is everything. It's a camera, it's a video thing, it's picture, it's telephone. So your phone is everything.
Right.
So it kind of, kids most would stay in that. So you got to have something to bring them out from that.
Right.
We didn't have that. You know, we had the family that just sit down, listen at the radio. You didn't have the TV.
Right.
Yeah, big radio was there. You know, we didn't have no computers.
Right.
But now with this electronic age, you really got to have something to bring the generation out because you got all the entertainment at home.
And some people we interviewed, they say that Lincoln Beach was all we had.
It was all we had right here. Only thing you had when your fairs came down and the Desire Project, Circuit Fair would come down, your Bonneville Circle was come down, your other little fairs. That's when you had people go there because we didn't have nothing. Still ain't got nothing. So if they don't make this thing entertainment and if the politician don't help the community, it won't last. You got to get people in these sections that are gonna say, okay, here grant for this, FEMA, we need this. If a hurricane come, destroy that beach, put it back up, get it running, keep it running. But we got to realize we're in a different time frame. We're in a different time frame. So you can't do what the old beach did. You got to have something completely new. Because if not, we'll come, but you got to have something to draw the children, to draw them. You know, they need entertainment, not no big loud music. I mean, you need something that's gonna draw their attention. If it's just that maybe little games they could play, you know, all kinds of little games. It could be a volleyball tournament. They get into a volleyball tournament or soccer or something like that. You got to have something. If not, our generation, their generation, two different generations. That's why the voting is different.
Now, I don't know if I missed anything, but man, they had picnics and the rides.
Picnic, rides, family got together, cousins got together. Mom bring her best dish on a Sunday
Right.
to have a picnic.
Schools,
Schools did,
churches.
yeah, they did a tour, but it wasn't much of the school and churches. It most was a family thing. It most was a family gathering because it was like Fountain Blue. Fountain Blue had no rides.
Right.
It's like a beach.
Right.
That's why it was Lincoln Beach, because it was a beach.
Right.
It wasn't for entertainment. It was like you go and cool off in the water, have your picnic. So it got to become more than just Lincoln Beach. It got to be Lincoln Beach entertainment.
Right, because some people came as far as Mississippi.
Yeah, because it's the beach.
Right.
It was a beach. It was like Fountain Blue. It's a beach.
Yeah.
So we came as children because we was coming up under the parent with the old generation. Our kids came under the new generation. And the new generation mean that they're not gonna come just have a picnic. Not the young people. You got to have something to entertain them. Or we'll be taking it back. I mean, I don't mind going to send a picnic.
Right.
We'll bring my grandkids, but they want to come. I'm glad to see it come back. I pray to God that it's more stronger than what it was before. But we have to let the children know this how we did it, but get some idea for the young people. Because this is going to be their beach. We decreasing, they increasing. So you need input from them what they like.
That's right.
What they like. They might be a whole different ballgame than what we like.
That's right.
But everything could come together. You take their ideas and our ideas and you have a whole.
That's right.
But they different.
I'm gonna take it.
My name is Brent Mickens, the grandson of Mr. Edward X. Dunn, Sr.
And that was your grandfather?
That was my grandfather, right.
He was the lifeguard.
He was the
director.
instructor, the director, everything at Lincoln Beach. He taught swimming from the dead open to the dead closed.
That's right. And
Mm-hmm.
he also went around to different.
Oh yeah,
projects.
all the neighborhood kids. He taught Boy Scout. He was a Boy Scout leader for over 50 years, and all the neighborhood kids he taught how to swim, even the ones that's way older than me. And he worked for Housing Authority for like 30-something years, and he brought swimming and Boy Scouting into the projects. You know, like the St. Bernard, the Melfamine, the Florida Project. You know, I learned how to swim in the Florida Project.
And your grandmother also.
My grandmother was right there. She dealt with the kiddie pool and the girls over there at Lincoln Beach. Yeah, that's her sitting in the pool. And
Right. And we are so honored, Lincoln Beach Center, to have some of the memorabilia of your
well, I
grandfather.
appreciate everything that y'all doing to recognize him. He was a great man in my eyes. You know, I
Yes,
know a lot of
yes.
other people feel the same way.
That's right.
And I always did say coming up with all the stuff he did, it should have a plaque or some way
Right.
recognized because he helped deal with the doll and toy fund at the municipal auditorium because he used to come back with a station wagon full of basketballs and baseballs and all that stuff and give it out. When some of the stuff he take from the doll and toy community, he come and give it out to the neighborhood kids.
So he was all around, he worked in the community to
Oh,
work with youth.
Right. He was all
Something
about the
that's
kids.
really
Yes.
needed. That's
Yes.
right,
He was
that's
all
right.
about the kids.
Right. And we are so honored to have his card, his lifeguard
Right.
card.
That's right.
And we are working on getting a jacket, the lifeguard.
And I remember when we used to go to some swimming pools and I called him Chief. That's what we called him. And he used to smoke cigars.
Right.
And he can get in the pool and lay down on his back with a cigar in his mouth and don't move his hands or nothing, just float. And every time I tried to do it, I'd sink. And he kept saying, Chief, there's some kind of way you gotta hold your air in like that. But he was a master at it.
Right, right.
You know,
For
and,
doing it so long.
Yeah, he'd been doing this so long.
And just at Lincoln Beach, the historical Lincoln
Right.
Beach, that's where he taught.
That's where he
swimming.
taught. And like I've been hearing about Lincoln Beach since I was born.
Right,
You know, everybody in my family knew. I'm sorry I came a little later that I couldn't participate in.
right, that's right.
But I hear nothing but great things about
Right. But that's an honor to meet you.
it. Yeah, I appreciate it.
We're not able to meet your grandfather, but
Yeah,
it's
we
an
have
honor to know.
we have my brother Tony Mickens. We have Deidre Mickens. I'm Brent Mickens. We have Tamiko Dunn, Eddie Dunn, and Devlin Dunn. That's his 6 grandchildren.
What kind of stories? Tell us some stories that you heard in the family. that
Well,
you
I
talk
mean, I
about.
heard my dad and them was lifeguards on the lakefront at one time,
Right.
but they all learned how to swim from Lincoln Beach from my grandfather. And I heard a lot of stories. I mean, but basically they're the same. Everything is about him participating with Lincoln Beach.
And you had more material, but you didn't know you had found some material in the
Yeah,
attic.
I found when he passed away, we went and straightened out the house, and I went in the attic and I found a box of opening day flyers from Lincoln Beach.
Right.
But every time I grabbed one, it disintegrated. It was so old, and I tried to see, I couldn't save not one. But when I first saw them, they looked like they was in pristine condition.
Right.
But when I went to touch them,
Right.
it just kept falling apart. And I mean, I went all the way through the whole box, couldn't save one.
So what do you want to see when Lincoln Beach?
Well, I like to see, recognize him for the man that he was. You know, he was a great man. For all the contribution he gave to Lincoln Beach, you know. So I mean, you know, put some type of plaque or memorial up there for him, you know, just so the future kids can know how to honor him, and you know that y'all, and I appreciate y'all trying to continue on his legacy.
Yes,
But I mean, you know, I don't want him to be forgotten, everything that he's done, you know.
That's right.
So, you know, he was a great man in my book.
And he had to be, he was, because that was the surrounding, swimming.
Right,
And
right.
he helped.
And look, I remember a story when he got a little older, and me and my friends used to go to the lake and swim. We just jump off the steps.
Right.
So, and one of my friends, he passed away, but we brought Chief. I said, man, I'm going to pick my grandfather up. So we went and pick him up, and we brought him out there, and he got his rope.
Right.
He said, I'm bringing this for you. I said, what you need that for, Chief? He said, I know y'all going. He used to say, y'all Negroes, I know y'all Negroes gonna jump in the lake, but I can't come get you because I'm too old, but I got this rope right here. And he come sit out there with his little folding chair,
Right.
and he watch us swim, and I could see the look on his face. It's like, I taught all these kids how to swim.
That's right.
And we'd go swim right there. Like, we go down to the bottom and grab a handful of mud, and company said, Chief, why y'all keep doing that? I said, Chief, don't worry, you did a good job. We can swim.
Interviewing different people, and that's what they talk about your grandfather, Mr. Dunn.
Yeah, Mr. Dunn,
He
yeah.
was,
Everybody knew Mr. Dunn,
That's
you know.
right, that's
and,
right.
and look, going through the neighborhood, everybody said, that's Mr. Dunn little grandson. That's
Right,
the
that's
Mr. Dunn
right,
little grandson.
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's a blessing.
Yeah, he was a loved man, yeah.
Right.
Him and my grandmother.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah,
And we have your grandmother,
Yeah.
your brothers.
yeah.
On
My
the
brother, my
pictures.
sister, my cousin, all of us. But look, we the whole neighborhood was our family, you know.
That's
Everybody,
right,
yeah,
that's right.
you know.
That's how we
Yeah,
lived during that
and
time.
yeah, you know, I wish you could get back to them time. They could stop all with the shooting and everything. But I mean, you know,
That's right.
it was a good time growing up.
And so your uncle lived in Texas.
Yeah, my uncle lived in Texas.
And so he,
Yeah, he's 80. Eddie Dunn Jr., he's 80. My daddy passed away, and I had another uncle, Clinton,
Yes.
which is the same age as a year older than my uncle Eddie.
Right.
But Clinton died before I was born.
right,
And so it was just my dad and Uncle Eddie.
Right.
But both of them was lifeguard.
right.
And so he live out there in Texas. But I mean, right now he's about 86. They had a story coming up where my daddy was young. My daddy stole a car and brought it by my grandfather. And he said, where you get that car from? And he found out what happened to it. They stole a car, but my daddy couldn't put it back together.
Right.
So he sent my daddy to mechanic school. And my daddy became my daddy was known through the neighborhood, one of the best mechanics that came out that era, because he could fix transmissions, everything. But it all started with my grandfather making him go to school, and he made him go to school, and then he made him put that car back together and get it out his yard.
That's right.
And that's the type of values he instead he told you, if you start something, be able to finish it. And if you're gonna learn something, learn it all the way. Don't half learn.
That's
you know?
right.
Yeah,
Be the
so
best. Whatever
be
you
the
do,
best,
you
right?
want to be the best.
Right.
Do
So I
it
mean,
right.
I know he made me the man I am today.
And I
Yeah.
looked at your work earlier, your iron work.
Yeah, and I take the same type of pride in my work that he took in teaching people.
That's right.
That was his work. He was an educator. He taught
That's
people.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.